Hello, and welcome back to From the Ground Up, a University of Chicago public policy podcast. I'm Logan, and I'm joined by Christian,
Howdy.
Tapo,
Good to be here again.
and of course, our lovely producer, Hugo.
Hello, hello.
And unfortunately, Karan couldn't be here today. He's not feeling too well, but we hope he gets better soon. So, this episode is going to be our last episode for the quarter. Thank you for sticking with us throughout this quarter. We wanted to do a little bit of news updates, some things to look forward to in the new year, and then just do a bit of an outro. Now, for any of you that don't know, COP28, the 28th United Nations Climate Change Conference, is happening right now. As a matter of fact, a handful of UChicago students, some from Harris, are representing the Chicago delegation. Christian, do you want to talk a little bit about what the conference is and what's been happening so far?
Sure. So COP28 is an annual conference whose purpose is to measure the progress and negotiate policy and business contracts to combat climate change. Although not everyone is in agreement with the ethics of negotiating business contracts at the conference.
Tapo, what about you?
Yeah, just like Kristen, I've been following, what has been happening on news websites and, seeing leaders across the world making concessions and just, I'm from Nigeria and I saw, Nigerian president right beside, is it King Charles now? And, they're taking pictures. And honestly, what came to my mind is that this is not the first time that we've seen leaders come together and have these conferences. We've had many over and over again, and we know that we're not on track to meet the promises we made with the Paris Climate Accord. And for me, as a young person who is interested in, energy policy, I cannot help but have this deep-seated feeling and doubt and some pessimism about what will, what would come out of this conference. And as time passes, it is more imperative that we start having more actions, less talk. I know, the world would be much worse if we don't have these talks at all. They're important, but there needs to be more pressure, and we need to see more results from this. We cannot, do this year and then next year we'll do another one, and the forest keep burning. The world keeps getting harder.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think coming from an industry perspective that it's a waste of resources and a waste of jet fuel, honestly, by flying all these decision makers and very influential people and business persons into one location and not seize the moment to negotiate contracts to combat climate change. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be guys like me working in the mines to extract the minerals to build the renewable energy technologies that we need. It's going to be the fabricators and the manufacturers at a polysilicon plant that are going to manufacture the polysilicon for the solar panels. It's going to be folks that are extracting oil. It's going to be folks that are researchers and scientists that are developing technologies to leverage coal in the absence of some of these renewable energy technologies and the amount of production that we have. And so why wouldn't we? You have Exxon, you have BP, you have so many companies there and so many policymakers. We should seize the moment and not just let this be a big conference where people just get together, hang out in Dubai and talk, but actually get something done, put pen to paper, make stuff happen. How do we meet our goals? Working backwards to get to what our targets were set for 2030, for 2050, and then thereon and thereafter.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with both of you more. I do think the absence of President Biden at this conference, while so many world leaders are attending, is pretty notable. I do understand that Vice President Kamala Harris is at the conference, but I can't help but wonder, with the United States not actually making its commitments in the Paris Climate Accords, is Biden's absence a reflection of not wanting the spotlight on the United States, which has the highest carbon per capita of any country in the world? It's astounding.
I think that just beyond that, like I was saying before, it might be a message that maybe shows how not as important the conferences really are. Because honestly, I want to be seen after this conference says that, the years after them, the actions of these countries are very different from what they've said at the conference. And we might have just had enough for the US president to be like, it's not that important because, things would change either way, whether we make this concessions or agreements or not. But not to downplay the importance of the vice president going there, of course. But, they did not give a reason why he did not go there. And I thought that was interesting too.
I wonder the same thing, but I think it's more in the context of, again, to reach those climate goals, there's going to be a trade-off that's going to cost us some damage to the environment by mining and extracting resources for those renewable energy technologies, in addition to everything else that is going on. But I do think it is a missed opportunity to not have the president of the United States attending the conference, rather the vice president, which may or may not have as much of an impact, especially when, again, you're talking about key decision makers, persons right there in the moment who will guide policy. Having the president of the United States right there to meet with leaders, to meet with persons is an immense opportunity to build bridges, to make connections, and to push policy faster to get to those goals. So I'm bothered that he's not there, but we can only speculate why he's not there.
Absolutely. And the conference isn't over yet, so big things could still come out of it. I do understand that the Biden administration recently changed a rule. I believe it was with the EPA that reduces methane emissions by millions of tons, which is great. It doesn't meet the needs of reducing emissions into the billions of tons, gigatons, but it's something, I guess. But yeah, it remains to be seen what will be done, if anything. And now, maybe on a bit of a happier note, I wanted to see what our speakers here on the podcast, what we're looking forward to in the new year and things on the horizon. Thapo, what about you?
I'm just excited to be done with this quarter, looking forward to the next. And, it's internship season now, starting to apply, see what internship I'll get for next summer. I'm also excited for a few conferences that I'll be going to in January. Kristen and I would be going to one.
It's the Winter Dinner 2024, which is or was previously titled the Mineral State Dinner in Duluth, Minnesota. It is a dinner where business leaders, particularly in the mining industry, minerals and metals industry, and legislators come together, sort of like COP28, but more focused on minerals and metals, to come together ahead of a legislative session in Minnesota and to network and to maybe negotiate contracts. We'll be there with some of our members here from the ground up, but also some members of my own company, TexChange Unbrokered, and some of these folks we're going to actually have on the podcast, particularly those from Twin Metals, Talon Metals, and possibly BHP. Additionally, we're going to be hosting an event called Uranium Mining and Nuclear Policy, and we're also looking forward to attending the Mineral X Symposium at Stanford University. We're also looking forward to speaking with some authors on a book that we've been reading. We don't have a date for that yet, but The World for Sale, which is about commodity trading and the energy market and natural resources and how that's done. We don't talk much about that on this podcast, but I think it is an area that we could delve more into to understand the markets behind the natural resources and the energy that we are producing and extracting.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Christian, do you have anything personal that you're looking forward to next year? Personal development or experience, anything?
This quarter has been pretty busy. We're in our last year now, and I'm developing the company. There's a lot going on, and I'm looking forward to actually launching our beta app. We've been doing a lot of onboarding and beta testing, in addition to continuing to validate our market interviews. But, going to the Mine Exchange in Phoenix, Arizona, and launching our product there with our target market, particularly in minerals and metals, it is a huge milestone for me and the company that I'm looking forward to, in addition to attending these other conferences and being invited to attend more conferences in the future.
Awesome. And as for myself, I'm going to be transitioning into a new job with an organization here in Chicago called Vivery. They do data analytics with food pantries and food banks. I'm very much looking forward to that. And as a consequence of working for them, this is going to be my last episode on From the Ground Up. We're going to be transitioning to Karan as the moderator for this podcast. We were hoping he could be here today, but he will see you next time. And yeah, I just want to thank all of you so much, to the people here on my team, the people who have been on this podcast, and the people going forward. And of course, all of you, the listeners. From all of us on From the Ground Up, we truly appreciate your listening. I also want to give a big shout out to our producer, Hugo. He's been doing, frankly, the brunt of the work on this podcast, making sure that everything gets edited and it sounds all nice and clean for you, our listeners. So thank you, Hugo, so much. Looking forward to see all of the work that you do going forward on From the Ground Up. And we look forward to giving you more complex topics, more information, and things to delve into in the future as the quarters continue. So we wish all of you happy holidays, a happy new year, and thank you so, so much. If you ever want to discuss any of the topics we talk about on this show with us, please contact us at uc3pfromthegroundup@gmail.com. We'll see you in the next episode.